Everyone, welcome back to AsArt with Nick, John, and our expert Kyle. We're going to be revisiting, after a long hiatus, the Lord of the Rings Ralph Bakshi animated version. In our last episode, we got through the Balrog, one of my favorite parts of that, and now we're on to Galadriel and Boromir's death. Spoilers from the 1970s. Here we go.
Let us know if you guys enjoyed the old animated Lord of the Rings. You know, comment down below. Let us know who your favorite animated character is in the series. If you like the attention to detail every so often, or the very minimal attention to detail when it comes to the rotoscoping. We would love to hear your opinions. We're big fans of it, and we would love to know if you guys like it, hate it, love it. If you guys like the stuff, we've covered so much Lord of the Rings content, from deep fakes to other animated stuff, and we're going to be breaking down movie stuff too, and we also talked about the Amazon show. So if you guys love anything Lord of the Rings or everything Lord of the Rings, subscribe to our channel. We have so much good content, and our expert Kyle is here with us, who's read all the books. And I think
panic, I'm here.
I think he's also on the board of the Toklin estate. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. He's not on the board of anything. I'm just joking. But we're gonna get into it. So the last one was Man Bear Pig. It was a guy in a Man Bear Pig suit with a whip.
Yes.
And I think he was called the Balrog, right? Okay.
Yes.
And
by his sniper friends, he was called the Balrog. Yes.
And Gandalf, he fell. He left us. So now we're picking up right after that, and we get to see some good old fighting and discussing scenes. I could have swore Gimli grew after Moria. I feel like he gets taller and taller. I don't know if it's because of the rotoscoping, but like there's times that I see him like, is he eye level with Legolas now? But,
yeah, I'm like Gimli's looking pretty tall.
And skinny.
You know. Yeah. Not very stout.
Not very
dwarf
stout.
There.
And one thing I have to mention, which I always mention, Sam, man, I get like he's the bumbling like fool or whatever, but he's always going it's like, oh my gosh, just give him a break. It would help with the animation if you don't have to draw every single frame. Just let the character stand there for a second. It would cut on the budget. It would help with story. No, I'm just kidding.
He's kind of like a goofy character almost. He just kind of has that kind of feel to him a little bit.
Yeah, when he does the thing when he walks in front of Galadriel or whatever, I was like, what's going on here?
I mean, with that, we've seen different interpretations of Sam, right? And probably one thing that's core to him is that he's actually a very simple hobbit, right? He likes the very domestic comforts. He likes his farm and Bag End and stuff like that. I think we kind of saw a variant of that, except he's more innocent and like sort of like, dare I say, bumpkinish kind of, and just like really innocent and childish, right? Because he's pure of heart in a way. But it kind of came off as him acting kind of, silly in a name, right?
Yeah. So let's compare it to the movie right away, right? So in the movie, we get this like cool shot where they're walking through the forest and do that awesome sequence where like, the dwarf breathed so loud we could have shot him in the dark or whatever, because he's like, I have the ears of a fox and the eyes of a hawk or whatever. And it's just so interesting how they're just like, we're gonna go here, and it's like bling, and they're already like at the council, where even in the books it's like a huge deal, right? Like they have to talk to them. They're like, oh, you can't really go in, but we'll go in a little bit. Then they have to like cross the river with this rope thing, and then they stop them again, and they have to sleep up in the trees or whatever. It's like this whole sequence to get them to like the base, and I like how it's just like ding, and so you're just like there within a flash
and there.
But did you think the mind reading scene read as well in the animation as it did in the live action? Because like
the mind reading scene,
like reading their minds and talking to them telepathically, right?
It's it's weird. I didn't get that at all. I thought she was actually speaking to them. Like it didn't come off like a telepathy
in the movie,
right? Like,
or in the animated.
in the animation.
Yeah, so I think like in the book and stuff, doesn't she like kind of talk to everyone about their weaknesses and stuff like that through the mind separately? I'm trying to remember, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. So I was just very interested because obviously this is an animated movie that's basically doing Lord of the Rings and the Two Towers in one movie. So like you got to cut out like a lot of fluff, but then they add random fluff in, which isn't anyways. But
no, that's not their fault. They wanted to do 3 films, and the studio wanted them to do just one for all 3. They're like, "What are you, crazy?" And they're like, "All right, we'll just do the first 2." I think for the most part, like up to Helm's Deep or whatever. They're like, "All right, fine," but. Yeah, you know what? It goes to show how good the acting is in the movie as well. Like Boromir, Sean Bean, where he kind of looks away, ashamed, when Galadriel's kind of, analyzing him or reading his mind and stuff like that. I didn't get that at all in the animated film. He just kind of looks at her and just kind of walks by, like doesn't pay any attention to her. So it's different. But again, like you said, they have to cut out a lot because they're having to cover so much in such a short amount of time. And the Lord of the Rings
chase scene with the horse, though, John. Remember, there was like an hour of the film was Frodo looking at the Black Riders and them cutting back and forth for like an hour. Remember? And it was just like, why aren't we moving the camera? And he was like, it's like an hour of them like trotting in place. Anyways, you guys can watch that in the description. But it was like I was like counting the time. I'm like, John, that's 20 minutes. That whole sequence was 20 minutes, dude. Like, I can't believe they like wasted 20 minutes on this horse chase scene. I really wanted to dive into Boromir's death. I actually thought they were both fantastic in the animated and also in the live action. I thought they did such a good job. I don't know what happened in this sequence, but I felt like this is one of the strongest sequences in the animated film so far. Like him kind of like trying to get the ring from Frodo, and then like the whole chase sequence, and then him getting shot. Like, man, he got shot like what? 10, 15
and they're, like,
times
clumped together in like spots here, like it's like grouped, and like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, it was really, really cool. And it's the animation on his face, like the emotion, like the his like emotion coming across worked really, really well. The thing that I say in every video is I bet this would have read way better too if they had like more of an orchestral soundtrack. But I mean, the acting from him during those scenes, you're right, is very, very good.
But the orcs always throw me off.
The rotoed Lumakid, yeah.
Sometimes during a death scene, sometimes it's even more punctuating if there's a lack of soundtrack, because this is it kind of like isolates the incident,
which also happens in the live action too, right?
For the death, yeah, it's just him talking, Aragorn talking to Boromir, right? Yeah, there's no music in that, yeah.
You just kind of hear the arrows go.
Yeah. But when he's trying to take the ring from Frodo, you have that kind of swelling soundtrack, right? Or no? I can't remember. It's been a little bit.
Yeah, I believe there is something small, but it's nothing large, because I think what Howard Shore did with the soundtrack, depending on how many people of the Fellowship were there, was how many instruments he would use. So like like little by little, like you would hear like when it's just the 4 hobbits. For the main theme, you would hear like a group of instruments, and then every time, and then you don't hear every instrument till they're all on the mountain, like, because it means the Fellowship finally came together, or they got together, and then when you start to lose them, they start to lose the instruments too, and it doesn't become.
That is sick. I had no idea.
It's cool, right? Like, it's just like,
that is an awesome detail.
It's so cool. I know. I always was so tripped out by that. So I don't think it's as, so when you get to see less and less of them, it's not as loud and pronounced and stuff. And that's
so. I think.
Yeah.
I think the reason, because I feel the same way, John. Like both the death scenes of Boromir, both were effective, right? Like I really felt something, right, when this happened, both in the movie and the animation. And I think it's because of all the stuff surrounding the death, leading up to and after, right? So Boromir is a redemptive character, because he tries to take the ring, right, and essentially at the end he protects the hobbits, right?
Tries.
He tries, right? And so that's like his redemptive moment. Like he has surpassed temptation, and now he's fighting off danger, and he dies for it, right? And it makes it pretty sad. And yeah, so like also just like maybe the film was a little bit more punctuated, but not by much, right? Because like both at the end they kind of have where Aragorn goes to Boromir's side, right? And he's like, in some form or another, he's just like, it's like, I really would have liked if we could have returned to Minas Tirith, as triumphant, right?
Yeah.
And he's not going to get to see that, and it's
especially because he can't get the name of the city right.
For Gondor and the city of Minas Tirith, we of Minas Tirith do not seek power to Minas Tirith.
Yeah, I was like, yo, my boy Boromir, man, like you got to get the name of your own city right. Come on.
Minas Tirith, he said, right? Was he say?
Yeah, Minas Tirith or something. Yeah, I was like,
oh my gosh. So one of the major differences though between the live action and the animated was you have like a main villain, right? You have Lurtz, or I forgot the name of the orc, right? The one with the archer. The one that's like hyper focused on him while he's shooting Boromir, right? You're like, you would see him and he gets closer and closer. And then you have that hero moment for Aragorn where he could come in and slay the bad character. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, like a boss fight or something like that. Where in this one, he was getting pelted by random orcs like crazy. Like these orcs were so much smarter than the other ones. Just like use arrows. This guy's swinging a sword. Just hit him with arrows, not just one guy going... And remember, he held the bow all weird too.
Yeah.
Anyways,
well, this is like the book, right? They added in that character just for the movies, right? Because they needed a villain.
And thank goodness, because I love that hero character in Battle for Middle Earth too. I don't know if I would be able to play as Isengard's army without him.
Wow, he took it in that direction. I was not expecting that.
He's actually become like a really fan favorite though in like the community, that orc character. So. Oh yeah, Galadriel was just weird, right? Like her eyes seem really off.
So what's interesting is the two different interpretations of Galadriel's scene where she can see herself holding, like, in possession of the ring.
Yeah.
Because in the movies it's like, it's almost like she's foretelling a prophecy, right? But then you realize she's like, oh, I've passed the test, right? And then in this one, she's almost like sort of like dancing. Telling an old story, right? She's kind of dancing and she's just like telling a half-forgotten tale about something as if it's something that could happen but really isn't. And it doesn't have the same weight. And I was like, oh, that's a different take than what I remember.
I know, she was like, instead of a dark, you have a dark queen. Woo-hoo.
Yeah.
I passed the test.
Why did
She's like, I passed the test. Like, wait, what's the test? Was dancing a test?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's something I remember them saying, especially in, I think, the Fellowship. They were saying, well, in all the movies, they were saying for the films, they were saying, yeah, we really have to get across through the close-up shots and the eyes and the music to really get across that this ring is in everybody's heads and it's really tempting them. And the Galadriel scene, I think I almost would have preferred something in the middle of that. Not quite as, loosey-goosey as the animated Galadriel, but the Galadriel in Lord of the Rings is like a little bit over, like, stated maybe, but it really shows like she's, especially when she says, I must admit my heart is, like, long for this or whatever. Like, you get an idea that even someone as pure and good as she is still being really tempted by this. Whereas in this one, she does tell you what would happen if she did take the ring, but she just almost kind of laughed it off. But I do like she was saying, she goes, oh, and I thought I was the one testing you. I did like the way she said that in the animated version. It's like, oh yeah, and I thought I was testing you, and here you are, throwing it back at me. But she didn't seem really tempted in the same way that you did in the movie. But yeah, it was
almost like a Tom Bombadil moment.
Remember in
the book he's like putting it on, he's like flipping it around, and he's like,
he just makes light of it. Yeah,
it's like, wait, dude, can you just go drop it off really quickly? Can't you just dig a hole and pop up there? I'm like, you know what? I'm thinking of like the Swedish Chef from like the Muppets.
Didn't Gandalf and Elrond actually have a conversation regarding Tom Bombadil? Like why he actually wouldn't serve as a good ring bearer?
It was something like he wants to only tend to his wood or something like that, right?
I think they said something like he didn't care about those type of affairs. He was like above all that, right? I mean, not in an arrogant way, but it's like I don't concern myself with things like that. He had this mild fascination. He just put on the ring and nothing happens. They're like, oh wow, it's like it just doesn't affect them. Yeah,
It's so funny. Like he doesn't care, but yet he cares enough when people were to sing his song to pop his head up and kill all the little like, ghost things in the cave. You know what I mean? It's like, well, he doesn't care, but. And then I think Gandalf talks to him for like 2 years or something like that, right? Like after the events of Lord of the Rings or something, he like goes and he has this like long epic talk with Tom. You know,
is this in the books?
Yeah, I think it was in the books. And
then
then
I don't remember that. Oh,
yeah, I think there's like this long. They just have this long chat because I think he might have been a part of the song that created the world, kind of thing. He may have been some super being or something like that. So.
Oh, okay.
So bringing it back to the Galadriel scene, there's another thing that kind of stood out in my mind when comparing the two films. Mm-hmm. So in the movie, especially the seeing pool, right, with the water like and stuff like the seeing thing, mirror or puddle of water, whatever it is, right? The basin that holds the water where you can see magical stuff, like things that maybe have been and are right. And you kind of see around the basin is this very ornate, like elven sort of like ornate design, right? And it's all in this plinth with this like entwined tree and like greenery. And then in the animation, I think it's really much a testament to when it was made, right? In like the late 1970s, because it's really reminiscent of that late 1970s fantasy style, where like there's like a really lot of like this like warm brownish palette.
Yeah.
And the seeing pool is just like this branch that juts up out of the dirt, and just holds this really crude looking, bowl, right? That she pours the water into. And I'm like, oh, this is very different vibe I'm getting, right? Just not the same. It didn't really come off as very elvish, but it came off, I guess, for the art style of the time, like being familiar with Frank Frazetta, and some other well-known fantasy artists of the time, like even the brothers Hildebrandt, I think. Like I got it, right? I understood what they were trying to go for, but growing up in a different time than that, I'm like, well, not hitting the same for me.
So we won't go off on this tangent too much, but do you think so? We're obviously in the era of very ornate, detail-oriented stuff, especially in Lord of the Rings. Do you think that's going to go out of style? They might go more minimalistic fantasy stuff again, or do you think it's a lot dependent upon budgets, and fantasy films are doing well right now, so they have the budget to do that?
I would say it's definitely dependent on budget. I'm saying, like always, if you have a larger budget, you're going to spend more money on the finer details. A lot of the times, right, in order to immerse the viewer, right? And I think it is, again, like you were saying, one of those things. It's a symptom of just budgeting at the time, like importance within the culture, right? That what they want to see.
Because I remember, supposedly, and this is from what I read, like Conan the Barbarian with the Arnold one, kind of saved the sword and sorcery genre because it did very, very well financially. Whereas I think it was Dragon Slayer or some other movies, they're cult classic, but they didn't do great. And so, around the time this animated film was being made, I don't think fantasy films were very big. So you're right. I mean, they definitely, and being an animated film, they probably didn't have a huge budget. I mean, just the fact they had to try and cram 2 movies into one is a testament to they didn't have what they ideally wanted. But you're right. Definitely more of a Frazetta, a warmer palette, things like that, which is definitely, dictated art styles at the time for sure.
Yeah.
You know what? Galadriel, I thought, serve the purpose, like Kyle was saying. It's just fun to see different takes on, okay, they're reading the minds, how did that come across? Galadriel looked perfectly I think again, like Sean Bean, Kate Blanchett, just, man, she nailed it. As far as, like, you would think of Galadriel, you can't think of really anybody else. And the big eyes and stuff, it's like, okay, elvish beings kind of have exaggerated features in certain cases, so I didn't feel like it was off, but at the same time, it's like, I wish Kate Blanchett was there. She was Galadriel. And so it's fun to see the different takes on stuff. It's just, I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that Kyle kind of mentioned.
And I also thought it was cool too how like Legolas was the brightest one in the Fellowship, because he's like an elf, and the elves were like all glowing and stuff like that. And did you guys enjoy that little scene of Legolas teaching Gimli how to shoot a bow?
Oh, you know what? Okay. So here's the thing. I gotta say that time where it's a montage, right, of them spending time
like
with the elves,
swords and stuff like that.
Yeah, that I thought was kind of cool. It was like kind of like them like having some downtime, which you actually don't really see in the movies.
No, they're always
right.
on the go.
It's like, look, they're people. They're gonna probably want a good time or like just try to entertain themselves in some way with some downtime. And I thought that was kind of cool, right? Especially with what you were saying with with Legolas trying to teach Gimli with the bow, and then like I think wasn't Frodo and Aragorn like play sword fighting or like training kind of like.
I guess we kind of get something like that in the movie, right? When they're on top of the mountain. Remember how like Merry and Pippin are playing with Boromir? And they're like, that's a flock of clouds. That's no clouds. You know, it's Kirtland from Douglas Hyde or whatever. Remember when they're on like top of the mountain or something like that? But they kind of have a similar kind of like where they're playing swords and like tickling each other. That's what's happening with Aragorn and Frodo. I mean, like, they're like playing like they're like laughing while they're playing swords. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
but this is more of like Kai was saying though, you get a sense of bonding of the fellowship during this period of time, especially after this. It doesn't last much longer. So you're right. I didn't think of mentioning it, but it is something I noted when I was watching the scene. It's like, oh, this is kind of a cool. You're seeing the development of them as a group, which is important because it kind of comes and goes pretty quick, especially in such a short animated film.
Oh, it's so fast. And then did you guys notice how beat up Boromir's sword was after Moria? It was like someone chomped on it. Like, it's like, dude, who makes your sword in that Minas Tirith place you come from? You know what I mean? It's just like, wait a minute. How come Aragorn's sword? And I'm like, oh, that's right. He has the special sword that burns with the flame of fire or whatever, or something like that. Or but I mean, his sword was like, dude, like, why are you even still carrying that thing? Like, what if that thing's gonna break any second?
Like, yeah, especially when he like knelt down like during the montage, like he was like trying to sharpen it. I'm like, dude, that's not good.
There's nothing left to sharpen.
I mean, I'm no swordsmith, but that's not good.
No wonder why he got shot up by arrows. His sword probably broke. It's like they're probably like, look at this guy. The Hobbit swords look more scary, look more intimidating.
It just also looked like he was looking around and just like, I hope they don't notice.
You know,
he's like, I'm gonna tell Jimmy he did something wrong with this sword or whatever.
I love when we were doing when they were entering the mines of Moria, when the beast in the water or whatever. I remember in the episode we were talking about when Sam or Boromir hits the beast,
the rubber sword,
the sword bends, and that's when you didn't see that. But as Boromir was fighting these guys, there's no blood, there's no cuts. It's just like, I'm gonna flog you with my sword. I'm not going to cut you. I'm going to flog you. It was kind of funny. You get an idea that, there was a few times where they animated the wounds open and things like that. They didn't really have the budget, I think, to do that on very many shots, but it's just kind of funny to get the idea that, all right, these guys are on stage, on a really makeshift temporary stage, and then they're rotoing, these characters after the fact to make it look animated.
Yeah. The roto stuff's really a trip, especially when they roto the hobbits, fighting. Mm-hmm. You can tell it goes from roto, but they're like drawing the feet over the whatever the characters are, and then even with Boromir, like you have the clean 2D animated scenes, and then you cut to like the rotoscope where you can almost see like the darks aren't even that dark. You can see like obviously noise and stuff happening, and we know we talk many times the budget and stuff like that, but sometimes it's just like it's so funny to see like roto, non-roto, roto, and it's like shot after shot too, and it reminded me. Go on, Kyle.
Well, and that's also something that Ralph Bakshi is kind of known for, right? Like he's kind of like, again, like you guys said, this was kind of a challenging film, and that they're trying to cram all three into one, and eventually it's like, okay, it'll be 2 books in one film. Like, Ralph Bakshi, like he had kind of been known for like being innovative in that way. Like, okay, we've got a small budget, we've got to make this and this happen. How can we do that the best way, right? And I think like knowing some of the additional details around this, I'm glad it was Bakshi
for sure
that made the attempt, right?
So I'm curious. This is about him just for a moment. So do you know how many? So you mentioned Frank Frazetta. So Frank Frazetta and he worked on Fire and Ice that was after, right? Was that way later or was that relatively soon after? Because
that was in 1984, I think.
Okay, I've only seen that once.
Because I've seen that.
Yeah, I've only seen that once. I have that in my DVD collection. But so I mean, this Lord of the Rings film must have been well enough received that they're like, all right, cool. Like Frank Frazetta and Ralph doing this. Like I imagine that, because I don't think this did well in theaters. I mean, for understandable reasons, for budget and what they were trying to cram in. And that's why they decided for Return of the King, the other company, they had done The Hobbit, the animation company did Return of the King. But
was that the same people that did the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer stop motion?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Bansky or whatever. Okay, anyways, go on.
Oh, I don't think he did Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. How do you say it? Is it Bakshi? I thought it was Bakshi. Bakshi.
Yeah.
It's
either one.
It's close. Either one's close enough.
So instead of John, you can say Jahan, and I just have to accept it. Jahan Blaylock.
Or Mini Tirith.
Mini Tirith. Yeah, they got the name of the city wrong. I can get his name wrong too. So, Kyle, you haven't been able to join us for the previous installments because those were quite a while back. But so just watching this, and I know you said you had seen this before, did you enjoy this take on things, or does it just make you want to watch the Peter Jackson movies?
No, so I distinctly remember watching the animated film for Lord of the Rings as a kid. And I watched them back to back a lot, right?
Interesting.
And I know that I remember that I didn't like the Ralph Bakshi stuff as a kid.
No, when you say back to back,
I always preferred
The Hobbit and then Lord of the Rings, or Lord of the Rings and then Return of the King.
Lord of the Rings and Return of the King,
cool.
just because my dad was the reference point for like knowing which sequence to watch these in, right? Because he had read the books when he was, his father son, thing. And so like, I remember watching the Bakshi animation and just like as a kid being like, this is all right, but I didn't like rotoscope.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could tell him just like, this is too real, right? Like I want animation. And then I would always prefer Return of the King. Way more excited for Return of the King. Because it looked like The Hobbit, and I was always curious as a kid why they did a style change. Because I didn't have the concept of different studios working. I was like, what's up with the style change and continuity here? Mm-hmm. So yeah.
I still have to watch it. I haven't watched Return of the King.
Yeah, we're gonna do that after we finish this series. We're gonna do.
Oh my gosh, you guys!
You have to be on that one. That'll be fun.
Oh, I will.
So I hadn't seen it until probably. What do you think? 2-3 months ago, Nick, I watched it. You were going to watch it too, but you didn't know.
Yeah,
but
you watched it.
I loved it. I really, really liked it. I thought it was great. I love that return to that style of animation because The Hobbit's my co-favorite animated film of all time. So obviously I'm biased, but I thought it was super, super fun. So we'll have to do that one together. That'd be fun.
Nick, I will say the Sam in Return of the King is way better than the Sam in the other one.
It has a really cool scene. The songs are good too. Yes. We're not telling you. Sam has a vision.
Does he eat the ring?
Oh, dude, I know which one you're talking about. I love that one. Yes. That is so awesome.
Woo! I can't wait.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's watch it right now. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, guys. So we're going to be continuing this series and finishing up our Lord of the Rings animated
Almost there.
versus the movies. We're getting there. It's been a long time since our Balrog installment to this installment. We're going to be doing these more regularly. One of our favorite series we've done on the channel. Even honestly, really much more fun having Kyle here as well. It's just fun. We're the huge Middle-earth nerds, and so it's fun to throw out these different ideas and perspectives. I come from a more visual effects compositing background. Nick's more of an animator, 2D, 3D, and then Kyle's a great illustrator. So we all have kind of different ideas on how these things compare. So it's just fun to have this extra added expert opinion of Kyle the expert.
If you guys want to follow Kyle, he's an amazing artist. Go follow him on Instagram. He's designed our merch and stuff like that too. So if you guys like his artwork, they'll probably be on our website on a shirt or a mug or something fun like that.
So anyway, you guys check out AsArt, especially the audio video links. We have a breadth of Lord of the Rings content, Miller content from deepfakes, visual effects breakdowns to these animated breakdowns as well. So check out AsArt, especially the audio video links, and we'll see you on the next AsArt.